بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. فأما بعد, my brothers and sisters, we are back on the story of Musa alayhi salam. Just think about that, how wonderful it is for somebody like Musa alayhi salam. Think about yourself. Now, if you think about yourself and say, what is my legacy? What is it that I leave behind? How did I live my life in a way which is of benefit to others? Sure, Musa alayhi salam was a Nabi of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and therefore he had that advantage over us. But this is a challenge and this is an opportunity that's available to every single one of us, which is to live our lives in a way which is more than the material stuff. You know, how much money did you make? What kind of house did you have? What kind of car did you drive? Today, the whole focus of our thinking and our desires and our hopes and our aspirations is purely material. And that is to me, this is a very, very big disadvantage. And also, this is one of the major reasons why we as Muslims, as the Ummah, as in collectively speaking, have so little influence in the world. And that's because being influential is not part of our thinking, right? We don't think in those terms. Now, this is a very, just imagine, think about that. What I want you to do is go home and sit with your children and ask each child to tell you what's in their heart as far as their life goals are concerned, right? Don't criticize, don't interrupt, don't try to talk, don't try to tell them what to say. Just listen to them. I bet you that the vast majority, if not all of them, are going to tell you things which are of a materialistic nature. Right? I want to make so much money, I want to work for this company, I want to drive this kind of a car, I want to have this kind of a house, and so on and so on. All material stuff. How many of you have children who will tell you things to do with influencing, to changing society, to leadership, to achieving something which is worthwhile, a great discovery, a great invention, right? To taking away of the pain of somebody in some place. How many of you have, if you have children like that, if even one of your children says that, subhanAllah, first of all, be very, very thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then support that child and try to infect the others' minds also with those kinds of aspirations. Right? Just imagine, ask yourself, we like to talk about our history as Muslims, and we like to talk about the young people in our history. You talk about Tariq bin Ziyad, you talk about Muhammad bin Qasim, you talk about Saad bin Muad, Saad bin Jabal, Muad bin Jabal, no, sorry, Muad bin Jabal, radiallahu anhu. We talk about all of these people, young people, youthful people. What do you think was in their heart? The world had material even then. It's not a question of which car and so on. Instead of a car, that person would have said a horse or something. But the point is that, do you think that somebody like Tariq bin Ziyad, who conquered the Iberian Peninsula and Spain, do you think he was focused on how much money he's going to make in life? Or what was he focused on? No, think about that. Think about this and say, what were the aspirations of those people? Even if you take people, I mean, take for example, Genghis Khan, not a Muslim, nothing, and the downside of it was that he's probably the largest, the biggest mass murderer ever to exist on the face of the planet. But on the upside of it, if you look at it, here was a man who was focused on joining his people together, creating one united Mongol horde, and on conquering as much territory as he could. What were his aspirations? You know, was it wealth, material wealth? Now, this is something we have to address in our schools, but even before the schools, it's something that we must address in our homes and say, what kind of aspirations? When we talk about my life, what is the message of my life? When people think about or read about my life, what are they taking away from there? The reason I'm saying that is, take somebody like Musa alayhi salam. As I told you, being a Nabi is a different issue. But if you just look at his life, what an amazingly rich life Musa alayhi salam lived. How many millions of lessons that we draw from his life. I mean, people like me have been talking about Musa alayhi salam and and his life and the lessons we learn from his life for decades, generations, right? And we never run out of lessons. If you take the Anbiya alayhi salam, take Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have the most beautiful, the richest life for anyone who is data mining for leadership lessons, for example. I have a book. I have actually two books on Sirah. One called Sirah is the Answer. The other one is called. The first one is called Leadership Lessons from the Life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the second one is called Sirah is the Answer. Leadership Lessons from the Life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, alhamdulillah, has been translated into 5 different languages. But the point I'm saying is that this is and this is I think I have touched on a small little piece out of his life. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If you look at the unlimited number, it's a question of the writer or the teacher's capacity to extract those lessons. It's not the shortage of lessons, just the inability of a person to encompass all that. And that is what Musa alayhi salam also brings for us. Now, we were talking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the hearts have been hardened. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that they are hard, and they are so hard they are even harder than stones, because water gushes out of stones and stones split with the khashyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but nothing happens to the hearts of human beings. And here the Bani Israel are the mukhatab, but if you look at it, we have to look at all of this from our perspective and say, what is the nature, what is the sign of what is the condition of my heart? Now, tears are a sign of the softness of the heart. Tears shed for the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the khashyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah, inshaAllah, right? For to cry before Allah and say, Subhanallah, Ya Rabbi, I love you more than anyone and anything else, wallahi. And this is the thing too, so tears come to the eyes because of that. Now, rebelliousness, on the other hand, is the opposite. It leads to the sealing of the doors of hidayah. When you are rebellious, now, subhanAllah, there is no one who has more ghuyur than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more ghira than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you continuously reject what Allah is giving, the gift which Allah is giving, right? The gift, for example, take salah. Salah is a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The permission to come into the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anytime you want, and compulsorily 5 times a day. This is the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that somebody who does that with understanding can never have anything negative in their heart. They can't have any sadness, they can't have any anxiety, they cannot have despair, they cannot have depression, because you're going into the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day, and you have access to basically to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah has no limits to what He can give you. So how can somebody with that kind of access to the Rabbul Alameen, we are not talking here about access to some powerful people or some billionaire or whatever. Here we are talking about access to the creator of every single thing that exists. Khaliqu kulli ashya wal ahwal. The creator of all conditions, the creator of relief, the creator of pain, the creator of cures, the creator of every single thing that exists. You have free access to Him, Jalla Jalaluhu, 5 times a day compulsorily, and then as many times thereafter as we want. How can somebody who is aware of that, who has this ihsas, who has this realization, this understanding of where he's standing, what he's standing there for, how can that person then have this in the same heart anything negative, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, now people, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, oh people, Allah has made Hajj fard on you, so make Hajj. And we're looking at now the Bani Israel's way of asking question after question. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, O people, Allah has made Hajj fard on you, so make Hajj. Now a man stood up and he said, is it to be done every year, Ya Rasulullah? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kept silent. He did not answer. The man asked him 3 times, is it to be done every year? Is it to be done every year? Then Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if I say yes, it will be made fard on you and you will not be able to do it. Now imagine, this is always Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had the interest of his ummah at heart. So here he is saying, Allah made Hajj fard, do Hajj. What must you do? Go and do Hajj. Here the man stands up and says, should it be done every year? The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if I say yes, then Allah will make this fard on you. And then you will not be able to do it every year. So now if you don't do it every year, you are a sinner. Right? So the adab of asking are very important. This is very important to say. How do you ask something? First of all, what do you ask? We have a habit of just asking anything we want. Right? So before you talk, before you ask, think about it. Say, is this something that I should ask? Number one. Number two is when you ask yourself, with this answer, what do I want to do with this answer? Because many times people ask questions which have really nothing to do with any action. Allah mentioned this in the Quran also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said with people about with the Ashabul Kahf, people have this argument. How many were they? Were there 5? Were there 6? Were there 7? Were there 8? Their dog, what color was the dog? What breed was the dog? Now, what are you going to, even if you get, first of all, these answers nobody can give us, but I'm saying even if you get these answers, what will you do with that? What is the point of that information? Right? Makes no sense. So if the Ashab al-Kahf were 3 or 4 or 10, what difference does it make to you? If the dog was white or black or whatever, what difference does it make to you? The real question we should be asking is, why did the Ashabul Kahf leave their town and go and stay in a cave? We know why. Because in the town, in the city, the ruler would not allow them to practice and live by Islam. So they left the place and they went. Now therefore, what is the lesson that I need to learn? The lesson I need to learn is that I am not going to give precedence to anything over and above the practice of my religion. So if I have a job in which I am not allowed to pray or I have no time to pray, then I will leave this job. I will try to find ways of praying. I will try to ask the people there, give me 5 minutes to do my first salah on time. But if for whatever reason they say, no, this is not possible, we cannot allow you, then I will leave the job. Because my razaq is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The job is not the provider of my provisions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider. If my job will not allow me to dress in the way that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to dress, I'm not saying wear thobes and shalwar kameez or something, no. I'm saying that the shari'i requirements of dress. If the job, for example, says you must only wear shorts, sorry, we cannot work like that, because it is not permissible for the Muslim to have clothes, to wear clothes like that. If the job says that for the woman that she cannot wear her hijab, it says to the man, you cannot have your beard, then sorry, that's not the job we want. I will leave the job and I will look for a job where I can practice my religion. I am doing something for myself. My beard is my face. How does it bother anybody? So if somebody puts a rule there saying you cannot have a beard, sorry, I'm not interested in this job. My hijab is on my head. Why does it bother you? If it bothers you, then that is your problem, right? Deal with it. I'm not going to take my hijab off because you don't find it pleasing. I'm not wearing it for you. And whether you like it or you don't like it has nothing to do with me. This is the lesson. These are the lessons we learn. So instead of that, if people are asking questions which have no relevance. So here, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and therefore he said, if I say yes, then Allah will make it fard on you and you will not be able to do it. Then he said, leave me alone with what I have left you with. People were destroyed before you because they went back and forth and they asked their Anbiya question after question. If I tell you to do something, do it. If I stop you from doing something, then stop doing it. But don't keep asking questions. Right? Now, this does not mean that you should not ask questions to clarify doubts. But it refers to needless questions, either rebellious questions or the questions of a nature where you are searching for useless information. Basically, that information has no use, but you're still asking those questions and searching for that information. It's talking about those kinds of questions. There's a hadith of the man who was injured and then took a bath because they told him that he could not do tayammum for his janaba. Now, this person was injured, he had an injury in the head, and this was a group that is coming back from Syria, from an expedition, and he had a wound in his head, and he needed to make ghusl because he was in a state of janaba, and the people said to him, you have to have a bath. There's no way, you must have a bath. So the man had a bath and he died. Because of that, he died. Rasulullah said, they killed him. So may Allah kill them. The cure of ignorance is to ask. Nabi was very upset. So he cursed them. He said, you killed him, so may Allah kill you. May Allah forgive, may Allah protect us from this. The cure of ignorance is to ask. So very important for us to understand from here, don't give fatwa if you don't know. Don't talk about something that you are not aware of. The Sharia is not a game. Right? Umar radiallahu anhu refused to answer hypothetical questions. He said, when it comes, then come back and I will bring the people of Badr and we will make mashwara and give you an answer. Somebody asked Imam Malik, rahmatullah alayh. He said, if you are on the moon, how would you pray salah, which direction? Imam Malik said, when you get to the moon, when you are going to the moon, then ask me, I will tell you. Don't ask me hypothetical questions. You might say, well, today we need this answer because people are going to the moon. It would be wonderful really if you think about this, that you go to the moon and you pray there 2 rakat of salah, subhanallah. Now Musa alayhi salam was very shy. So Bani Israel said that Musa alayhi salam covers himself up because he has a disease. And they said he had leprosy or syphilis. This was, amazing people. I mean, their own Nabi, they were so rebellious against him and they were so antagonistic to him and they were so aggressive against him, even though he was responsible to take them out of a state of slavery. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted the Bani Israel to see that there was nothing wrong with Musa alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam used to go and to the river and bathe in a place where nobody could see him alone. So one day he took off his clothes to bathe and he put his clothes on a rock and the rock ran away with his clothes and went all around the Bani Israel with Musa alayhi salam chasing it. So when Bani Israel had seen that he was the best of Allah's creation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stopped the stone. Musa alayhi salam hit the stone with his stick and left marks on it. I mean, he got so angry, he beat up the stone. But anyway, it was not the poor stone's fault. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this to show the Bani Israel that Musa alayhi salam was, alhamdulillah, he was perfect. The Musa alayhi salam then lost Harun alayhi salam, who passed away. Then Musa alayhi salam was visited by Malakul Maut in the form of a man. He came and asked Musa alayhi salam, are you ready to die? Musa alayhi salam slapped him and knocked his eye out. Now Malakul Maut went to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course Allah knows, and he said, oh Allah, you sent me to a man who does not want to die. If I did not know that he loves you, I would have made his death difficult. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, go back to him and tell him to put his hand on the back of an ox, and I will give him 1 year for every hair he touches. So Musa alayhi salam, Allah said, do this. So Malakul Maut went back and he said to Musa alayhi salam, here is an ox. Now you take your hand, rub your hand along the body of the ox, and for every single hair that your hand touches, Allah will give you 1 year more. So Musa alayhi salam said, and then what? Malakul Maut said, and then there is death. And then there is death. So by then Musa alayhi salam's temper also had come down, so he said, I'm ready to go. Now, let me die now. Now Musa alayhi salam wanted to live to be able to lead his people into Jerusalem. And that's why he wanted to live. He's not living for any material means. He wants to, but then he realized that this was not ordained. That Allah had not ordained for him to lead the people. Because when Musa alayhi salam did take them, the Bani Israel refused. They refused to go into Jerusalem. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Mashiach, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that this whole generation has to die and pass away before Jerusalem will be given to them. So Musa alayhi salam then therefore agreed to die. And then he said to Malakul Maut, take me as close to Jerusalem as you can so that I can die there. The only reason they could not enter the promised land is because the Bani Israel betrayed him. So he wanted to at least die close to Jerusalem. So Musa alayhi salam died in the wilderness near Jerusalem. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that during his journey of Isra wal Mi'raj, he said, I saw the grave of Musa alayhi salam and I saw him standing in Salah in his grave. He was praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his grave. Now this is a special gift for the Anbiya alayhi salam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow them, will give them life in the grave, and they will be allowed to pray in the grave. Musa alayhi salam is one of them. Also the earth has been ordered not to touch the bodies of the Anbiya alayhi salam. So the Anbiya alayhi salam are alive in their graves as living people. This is something that we also know and hear about many pious and good people, that accidentally somebody digs up a grave and they find this person who is, as if he's just sleeping. In one case they accidentally injured the leg of the person and he started bleeding. Right? So this is a person who's been dead for years. Alhamdulillah, these are all karamat, not of the individual but of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does things which are sometimes different from how normally how they happen, and Allah does this to show us His khudrat and His power and His glory. Then we have the story of ajaib, story of strange things, which is the story of Musa alayhi salam and Khizr alayhi salam. Now Musa alayhi salam, one day he was speaking to the Bani Israel. He stood on the mimbar and one of them asked him, who is the most knowledgeable? Who is the most knowledgeable person today? So Musa alayhi salam said, me, I am the most knowledgeable. Now think about this, because in Musa alayhi salam's time, the Nabi of the time is always the one who has the most knowledge, because the Nabi is and especially in the time of Musa alayhi salam, because he was the Sahibul Sharia, he had brought the Kitab, the Torah, so him saying that I am the most knowledgeable was factually correct. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, why did you not say Allah knows best? He should have said that, Allah knows best. Now, he didn't say that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that there is one person, one of my slaves, who has more knowledge than you. So Musa alayhi salam, see the humility of Musa alayhi salam, right? He did not, when he said I have the most knowledge, he was not being arrogant, right? He didn't say, oh, I'm the smartest, I'm the best. No. He said that because that's what he genuinely believed. But the moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him that there is somebody else who has more knowledge than you have, Musa alayhi salam's humility is so beautiful. His immediate thing is, Ya Allah, please take me to him, let me learn something from him. So he said, oh Allah, how can I learn from him? Okay? How can I learn? He didn't say, send that man to me. He said, let me go. This is part of the adab of learning, that the student goes to the teacher. The student waits for the teacher. The student is early for the class. The teacher, to make your teacher wait for you is against the adab of learning. This is a very disrespectful thing. One of the Sahaba, on an aside, he wanted an explanation for something, some one of the ayat of the Quran. So he went to Abdullah ibn Abbas's house, radiallahu anhu. Now Abdullah ibn Abbas was a young man, and this Sahabi who went there was an elderly person. So he went there, and he realized that he had come at the afternoon siesta time, so very, very hot it was, and people were resting. So he just sat down in the shade of the wall of the house, outside the house, on the ground. Now Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he must have been resting or something. So for Salatul Asr, he came out of the house. As soon as he came out of the house, he saw this man sitting there. He made salam to him. He said, yeah, my uncle, yeah, Ami, why are you sitting here? So he said, I came to ask you a question. He said, subhanAllah, you should have knocked on the door. You should have come inside. He said, no. He said, this is against the adab of the student. He said, I came to ask you, so for this you are my teacher, and it is against the adab for me to disturb you. So Abdullah ibn Abbas says, you are my teacher because you are teaching me this, subhanAllah. Now this is the akhlaq, the Islamic akhlaq, the Islamic manners that we need to learn and to teach each other. So Musa alayhi salam said, Ya Allah, how can I learn from him? Now this was Al-Khizr. Now Rasulullah said that he got his name because once he was sitting on some dry grass, and when he got up, the grass turned green. Now Musa alayhi salam took his servant Yusha, who is Yusha bin Nun, who is in the biblical names is called Joshua. Yusha bin Nun, he took him with him and they went in search of Al-Khidr. Now he was Yusha bin Nun later then became the Nabi. He was appointed, Allah made him the Nabi of the Bani Israel after Musa alayhi salam passed away. Now Musa alayhi salam's story with Khizr alayhi salam shows how he was interested in learning and how humble he was and how he was willing to sacrifice his time and make the effort to go and learn, even though he was a Nabi and he received Wahi. Right? He was a Nabi, he received Wahi, he was a Sahibul Sharia. He was not just any ordinary Nabi, he was a Rasul. He is among the Ulul Azam, min al-Rusul. So he was a very, very important, even among the Anbiya and among the Rasuls, he was one of the most important of them. Despite he was very, very humble. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us the whole story of Musa and alayhi salam and Khizr alayhi salam in Surah Al-Kahf, and we have this whole story where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال موسى لفتاه لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبا فلما بلغا مجمع بينهما نسيا حوتهما فاتخذا سبيله في البحر سربا فلما جاوزا قال لفتاه آتينا غداءنا لقد لقينا من سفرنا هذا نصبا قال أرأيت إذا أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان أن أذكره واتخذ سبيله في البحر عجبا قال ذلك ما كنا نبغ فارتد على آثارهما قصصا فوجدا عبدا من عبادنا آتيناه رحمة من عندنا وعلمناه من لدنا علما قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا عاصي لك أمرا قال فإن اتبعتني فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرا فانطلقا حتى إذا ركبا في السفينة خرقها قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا نمرا قال ألم أقل إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت ولا ترهقني من عمري عسرا فانطلقا حتى إذا لقيا غلاما فقتله قال قتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا فانطلقا حتى إذا لقيا غلاما فقتله قال قتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني قد بلغت من لدني عذرا فانطلقا حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما فوجدا فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض فأقامه قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا أما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر فأردت أن أعيبها وكان وراءهم ملك يأخذ كل سفينة غصبا وأما الغلام فكان أبواه مؤمنين فخشينا أن يرهقهما طغيانا وكفرا فأردنا أن يبدلهما ربهما خيرا منه زكاة وأقرب رحما وأما الجدار فكان لغلامين يتيمين في المدينة وكان تحته كنز لهما وكان أبوهما صالحا فأراد ربك أن يبلغا أشدهما ويستخرجا كنزهما رحمة من ربك وما فعلته عن أمري ذلك تأويل ما لم تسطع عليه صبرا. Let me just complete the translation of these beautiful ayat of Surah Al-Kahf. And incidentally, as we all know, Surah Al-Kahf is a surah with many fadail. And one of the most important things is something that Rasulullah advised us to read and recite every Friday. And he said that from one Friday to another, when you recite it, there will be a nur, there will be a light that will go from one Friday to another when you recite Surah Al-Kahf, insha'Allah. And also this surah is a protection from, in the hadith is in Baihaqi, that whoever reads Surah Al-Kahf on the day of Jumu'ah will have a light that will shine from him from one Friday to the next. And this is in Baihaqi. The other thing is to remember and understand that Surah Al-Kahf is also protection against the Dajjal. It's a surah with phenomenal amounts of learning, and it talks about 4 major challenges that we face in life, which is challenge of wealth, first of all, challenge to the religion, challenge of wealth, challenge of power and authority, and challenge of knowledge. And these are the very important lessons to learn from Surah Al-Kahf. So anyway, to come to the ayat which I recited for you in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and remember when Musa said to his boy servant, I will not give up traveling until I reach the junction of the 2 seas, or until I spend years and years in traveling. Now this was the, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him this direction of where to find Khidr alayhi salam, and this was at the junction of 2 bodies of water, 2 seas. So Musa alayhi salam says, I am going to do that, and it doesn't matter how many years it takes me. But when they reached the junction of the 2 seas, they forgot their fish, and it took its way through the sea as in a tunnel. So they took something to eat on the way, and this was a fish that they had. And this fish, when they came to that junction, Yusha bin Nun was walking behind Musa alayhi salam, and this fish fell or leapt out of his container, whatever it was, and went into the sea, into the water. And when it went into the water, it looked as if there was a tunnel in the water that this fish was swimming through. So but Yusha bin Nun didn't mention this to Musa alayhi salam. He didn't say, oh, a fish has gone. He didn't say anything. He just kept walking. So when they passed further on, so beyond that fixed place, Musa said to his boy servant, bring us our morning meal. Truly we have suffered much fatigue in this our journey. So he said, get this fish, let us cook it to eat. So he said, do you remember when we betook ourselves to the rock? I indeed forgot the fish. None but shaitan made me forget this thing, and it took its course into the sea in a strange way. So his boy said, if you remember the place, in some distance in the past, which we passed over, there was this rock, and we were there. Maybe they sat there for a while. I don't know what they did. Anyway, he said that this fish went away into the sea, and I should have told you, but I forgot. Shaitan made me forget, and this was a strange thing. So Musa alayhi salam said, that is what we have been seeking. So they went back again, retraced their steps. Allah knows best how many hours they had been walking. Then they found one of our slaves, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, unto whom we had bestowed mercy from us, and whom we had taught knowledge from us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, that is where Musa alayhi salam met Khidr alayhi salam. Musa said to him, he said to Khidr alayhi salam, may I follow you so that you teach me something of that knowledge, which is the guidance and the true path, which you have been taught by Allah. So he, Khidr, said, verily you will not be able to have patience with me. He said, I have no objection, but you will have difficulty because you will not have patience with me. Like all good teachers, he knows himself. And he said, it is understandable, because how can you have patience about a thing that you don't know? Meaning, he said, you are going to see me doing things that you won't understand, and you will, maybe you will ask me questions, you will bug me, so to speak. So, Musa alayhi salam said, if Allah wills, you will find me patient, and I will not disobey you in anything. So he, Khidr alayhi salam, said, then if you follow me, ask me not about anything until I mention it to you myself. So he said, now you're with me. If you see anything, if you see me doing something, don't ask questions until I tell you myself when the time is right. Now, Musa alayhi salam agreed. So they both proceeded. Then, till they embarked a ship, so they came to this river or body of water, whatever it was, they needed to go across. There was this boat, and these boatmen were there. And Khidr alayhi salam scuttled the boat. He made a hole in the bottom of the boat, and the boat sank. So Musa alayhi salam said, have you did this? You scuttled the boat to drown the people? Verily, you have committed a very bad thing. I mean, he said, what is this? You have damaged these people's boat, and they would have drowned. You committed a big munkar, imra, sayyan imra, is something which is evil and bad and dreadful. Now, it was the nature of Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam was an amazing human being. He was very strong, very upright. He was a very activist kind of person. He would not and could not just simply sit and see something happening, especially something wrong. He could not just sit and see it happening without doing something about it. If you recall, we talked about his journey to Madian, where he met his future wife-to-be, for example. Now, when he went there, what did he see? He saw these two girls trying to water their sheep, and the men who were there with their cattle and camels and whatnot, they would not allow these girls to get to the well, to the water source. So Musa alayhi salam could have, he was a new man there, he didn't know anybody there, he was alone, he was not as if he had force and power or anything. So he could have thought to himself, well, okay, so this is life, right? It happens. And he could have just simply watched it happening, but not Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam went in there, he helped the girls, he moved those men aside and so on. So this was Musa alayhi salam's nature. He just couldn't simply sit quietly. He saw those two people fighting, the Egyptian and the Bani Israeli, and Musa alayhi salam interfered in that. Right? In the process, the Egyptian got killed. So Musa alayhi salam always stood for what he believed to be right, and he always asked questions, and he was a very activist kind of person. So now he's seeing Khidr alayhi salam. Now they're going they want to cross this river, and they come to this boat, and Khidr alayhi salam sinks the boat. So Musa alayhi salam, obviously he's perplexed, he's upset. So Khidr said, alayhi salam, did I not tell you that you would not be able to have patience with me? So Musa alayhi salam said, okay, do not call me to account for what I forgot, and do not be hard upon me for my affair with you. He said, I'm sorry, I should not have asked you a question. Then they both proceeded till they met a boy. They found there was a young boy, and Khidr alayhi salam killed him. Now Musa alayhi salam just couldn't keep quiet. So he said, you killed an innocent person who has done no harm. He killed nobody. He killed nobody and you killed him, meaning that death for death. If somebody is a murderer, then to kill him, maybe there is some justice in that. But this poor guy, he didn't do anything. Verily, you have committed a great nukra, a great thing, which is a great evil and great prohibited and dreadful thing. Now Khidr alayhi salam said, did I not tell you that you cannot have patience with me? Musa alayhi salam said, okay, if I ask you anything after this, do not keep me in your company, send me away. You have received an excuse from me. He said, I won't blame you, you can tell me to go. Then they both proceeded. Now, whole day they've been walking till they came to the people of a town. They asked them for food, but those people refused. They refused to entertain them. Again, very unlike usually people are hospitable, but these people, they refused to give them any food. Then they found in that town a wall which was about to collapse. And he, Khidr alayhi salam, he repaired it and he set it straight. And maybe Musa alayhi salam helped him, whatever. Now Musa alayhi salam said, if you had wished, surely you could have taken wages for this. Now, these people are not willing to give us food without anything. So now you repaired their wall. You could have said, well, give us something as a compensation for this. So Khidr alayhi salam said, Khalas, this is the parting between me and you. And I will tell you the interpretation of those things over which you are unable to hold your peace, hold your patience. As for the ship, it belonged to Masakin, for poor people working in the sea. So I wish to make a defective damage in it, as there was a king after them who seized every ship by force. Right? So these people would have lost their livelihood completely. So I made the ship defective so the king would not take it, and later on these people could repair the ship and their livelihood would be saved. As for the boy, his parents were believers, and we feared lest he should oppress them by rebellion and disbelief. He said this boy's qadar was that he would probably leave Islam, he would become a disbeliever, and he would cause a lot of pain and suffering to his parents. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to end his life there, and Khidr alayhi salam was given this job. So he said, that's the reason I did that. So we intended that their Rabb should change him for them for one better in righteousness and near to mercy. So he said, Allah will give them a better child who will be much better for them. And as for the wall, it belonged to two orphan boys in the town, and there was under it a treasure which belonged to them. And their father was a righteous man, and your Rabb intended that they should attain their age of full strength and then take out their treasure as a mercy from your Rabb, from your Lord. And I did it not of my own accord. That is the interpretation of those things over which you could not hold patience. So Musa alayhi salam is being told that this is the story, and Khidr alayhi salam says that I did all of this because I was supposed to do it, I was ordered to do it by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is not that I did something by my own account. Inshallah, we will talk about this more. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to learn His kalam and to benefit from it in multiple ways. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.